Welcome everyone to Firecat First Friday. My name's Susan Price. I'm the CEO of Firecat Studio, and we host learning sessions, usually on the first Friday of the month. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Firecat and then introduce our speaker for today. Firecat Studio is a user experience consulting firm. We do user research, usability studies, accessibility, and on digital design. So we're in San Antonio, Texas. We've been around since forever. We like to do nonprofits and government work, and large enterprises have served companies like Amazon and T-Mobile, and the city of San Antonio is a big project we're working on right now, state of Texas type stuff. But we're often working on strategy with our clients, and big part of strategy is content strategy. And I know most of you must be interested in the AI, artificial intelligence, and how these tools can help us create content. And we want to talk about whether they're going to make us obsolete. And so I saw Cami. If you haven't followed her, she puts out a ton of really good content. Cami is the founder of Social Media Breakfast in Houston, and she's an old guard social media person. She adopted it right away. She's a digital strategist herself. She has a big, impressive client base. I'm going to let her tell you about her company. And I would suggest we go off camera while she's talking to us. And then Cami, when you're ready for us to be the Brady Bunch again, why don't you just give us the signal?
Cool.
And I'm going to hand it over to my smart friend, Cami.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Always anything that has anything to do with San Antonio, I am on board because, yeah, that was my old hometown, so to speak, and how I kind of got to know everybody there. And so many of you I know very personally. So hello, nice to see you again. And I just want to have I want to have a conversation. I'm going to show you a few things, and then I want to open it up to a conversation, because I believe that this particular time in our evolution, we were talking about it before we came into McD, I think was on the verge of saying this, is that I believe that we're in a huge sea change in our industry again. So I remember when social media was first bubbling to the top, it felt very much like this, very similar to what I feel right now with all of the new technology that's just about to burst onto the scene. And so my goal over the next couple of years, I've kind of made this my focus, is to make sure that we as communicators are ready for it, that we know where we fit in the puzzle, and we know how to use the tools effectively and efficiently to get there. So like Susan said, my name is Cami Huyse. I have a agency called Zoetica Media. We serve clients to help them with their social media needs, to help them reach their audiences, and to work with influencers. And that's kind of what we do. We help those. And we have some great clients that we work with on the healthcare side, a little bit of travel and tourism, and some tech as well. So those are kind of our main areas that we work in. But I also work with communicators like yourselves, and I work with PR marketing, and digital communicators to help them to kind of be to burnish their brand as well, so that they can get the information that they need, and also the visibility that they need to be successful. So I've been working on that a little bit too. So that kind of brings me here. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and just show you one slide. I'm not going to show a bunch of slides today, because I think that slides are, they can be very boring. So this is the first one. I just want to talk about the 5 trends I kind of see coming along this next year. One of them is the one we're going to talk about today, but I want to show you the whole picture so you can understand where I think that this is going. So number one is really the AI takeover that you've heard on the news and everywhere else, or should I call it the fear and destruction, worry about AI takeovers. The robots are coming. But in the end of the day, I believe that AI and artificial intelligence is going to be the engine of all of the software that we use, everything that we use. It's going to be almost like the telephone in is to us, or, even social media, right? It just exists out there, and it's going to be baked into almost everything that we do. So right now it feels very novel and interesting and cool, but honestly, it's been around for a long time. I have kind of a funny story to tell you. When I was way back, when I was working in Washington, D.C., and I was not married yet or anything. So gosh, this is, 25, 30 years ago. I met this guy that I dated for a little bit, and he told me he was a neural networker. I don't know if you guys know what a neural network is. I didn't at the time. It was a long time ago. But a neural network is basically a language processing. It thinks, it changes as it learns. So it changes and it does all this. And at the time, it was like, the State Department was using it, or somebody, I don't know. But now, I mean, these neural networks have grown and become this thing that has happened, and really are the basis of something like AI, or artificial intelligence. And so I feel that this natural language processing is getting a lot better as things have gone on. And so now these tools can take something, and it doesn't sound like a third grader writing it. Now it sounds more like a 10th grader writing it, or a 12th grader if it's really good and has really good data. So on the writing side, there's that. We're also going to talk about images. We're going to talk a little bit about all the other kinds of AI tools. There's AI tools being introduced every day, like create videos with it, to create audio with it. But I'm going to focus in today on writing and images, so that I can't boil the ocean in the time that we have together. So that's AI takeover. The second, third, fourth, and fifth ones kind of go along with this as far as what I'm seeing happening. There's also been a huge, on social media specifically, platform fragmentation. I don't know if you've noticed that there's like so many social media tools now that it's hard to decide where you should spend your time. Be Real, Snapchat is coming back, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. You've got Facebook, Twitter, which who knows what's happening with Twitter week to week, and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of deglobalization and platform fragmentation that's happening. A lot of countries are trying to make sure that they have a social media network that they own. That's why the TikTok thing has been a big, huge mess, because people are worried that it's not American, so it's going to be a problem with data. There's a lot of things. And by the way, it's not a bad thing that's happening. There's like a lot of things that are going to happen, but it's going to make it harder as communicators to decide which platform you should be on. But I do believe that these kinds of technologies are going to help to bring some of this together over time. But there you go. And then, of course, the rise of short form video, short form content is huge, as you probably know, and people's overall attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that's going to be huge too. And that short form video, it's like 90% of what people like of the watch time on these platforms is short form video. And because platforms need to get your eyeballs, see tip number 2, it's harder and harder for them to keep you. They're going to cater to that short form kind of format to get people's attention and to keep their attention. The fourth thing is virtual shopping. So this is going to be huge as well. Like Snapchat has gone all in on this. They have a VR toolkit, which is virtual reality, which is point number 5. But you can go into Snapchat right now, go into the virtual reality rooms on Snapchat for a brand and buy things. Like you can try them and kind of manipulate them and buy them right in Snapchat. I was stunned by this. I started to look into this a little bit more last year when my kids started telling me that they were mostly using Snapchat these days. By the way, it's good to have teenagers, because if you have teenagers, you'll know what the current trends are, where they're going a little bit. So once they grow up, I'm going to have to adopt some teenagers to talk to. So virtual shopping is huge. And then number 5 is immersive media, which is really all the AR and VR types of things. So augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse, all that crazy stuff. But I do believe there's going to be a layer over our reality. You've seen it with all kinds of tools that have come out. You saw it when Pokemon Go went like all crazy a couple of years back. You could pull out your phone and see all these critters running around in your living room. And I think that's going to happen too. And you see it too with like, you can try on glasses, and, you can put your face into the internet, and you can put on glasses to see what they look on your face, or you can open up an app and scan it around the room and see where that couch that you want, how it would look in the room that you're actually in. So there's just so much that's coming up that it feels a little bit like a waterfall. But I do think that as communicators, especially, this is going to be so important for us to stay kind of in the know about where things are going so we can take advantage of them for marketing, for product development, all those kinds of things. One of my clients, I told him about Chat AI, Chat GPT a couple of weeks ago, and he's already like figuring out how to add it into his website. So there's just a lot of amazing opportunities that are out there for us as communicators. So those are the 5 trends that I see coming. I'm going to stop the share for a minute, and then I'm going to jump into showing you the tool. So how many of you in chat, tell me if you've already used Chat GPT? Tell me if you have an account. Say yes or no. I'd like to see what I have here so I know where we're at. Cool. Awesome. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. There's some no, some yes. There's some waiting. Yes, no, no, no. Yes, yes, no. When you say you're waiting, are you on a wait list? If you are, I'll tell you how to like get around that during this. So that's one thing I will tell you. I know a lot of people have had some trouble getting off of that wait list, but I think I can get you off the wait list today. There's a way around it. So I'll teach you that. So ChatGPT has obviously hit the scene running. I'm going to actually open up my ChatGPT so you can see it here. And this is the screen, what it looks like inside. It's pretty simplistic. They've kind of taken a Google page by just having one chat box, and you just put your prompts right here in this chat box, and then everything happens from there. They have a couple of examples. They've added some things to this, by the way, these boxes. I think it's just because people are, it's the only way they can communicate with you in this box. But you can see I've done a bunch of different samples of things on the side. I've been using it for different ideas and just trying different things with it for a while. And in the end of the day, what this really means is that you have to be great at creating prompts. So one of the things that, and I'll bring this up again in a minute, it's kind of a boring screen to look at, but one of the things I want to talk to you about today is that the instructions that you give the AI is everything. It's everything. So I remember when my kids were in elementary school, and the teacher was teaching them how to do logical thinking and putting things in order. Great for programming, great for all kinds of things. If you're a programmer, you know that you have to put everything in a specific order and everything before it, and it does that. And so she used a cake to do that. So she said she was going to bake a cake with the kids in class, and she put all the ingredients up on the table, and they sat down and they had to tell her how to bake the cake. And so the first thing they did is she had a big bowl and a cake mix and the oil, the eggs, all that. And they said, first you have to put the cake mix in the box, in the bowl. And they said, oh, okay, great. So she picked up the cake box and put it in the bowl without opening it. She just took the whole thing and put it into the bowl. And that's really the same thing as what I'm seeing with this kind of AI tool. You can't just tell it only the obvious things. Sometimes you have to give it more instruction, like what tone of voice it should have. It's very intuitive to use it, but understanding that the more information that you give it, the better it is. Another example is a book that we're writing right now. I'm writing it with 35 other marketing experts, and Mark Schaefer is our publisher, also written a chapter. It's going to be his next book with us. And one of the things that's interesting about it is we decided that we would create a book cover using AI for the book, because it's a marketing book and we want it to be kind of have something to talk about. And so the guy who was doing that book cover with the AI, his name is Frank, and he was having trouble getting the book cover to do what he wanted to do because his prompts weren't specific enough. And so he kept asking people what do we really want to say with this? And so he really worked on that and came up with 3 pretty great book covers that I shared out on LinkedIn. And then on LinkedIn, people chose which book cover they wanted, but that was sort of our marketing side of it. But in the end of the day, it's only as good as what you put into it, right? At capacity. So you're waitlisted. Yes, Paula, I know. So it does say it's at waitlisted. So let me just show you kind of the back end of this, because I think this will help you guys to see. There is this ChatGPT is a part of the openai.com platform. So there's a couple of ways you can try to get in. Number one, you can go to this platform AI and try to make an account here. If somebody wants to share that, McD, could you help me with this possibly? I don't know if you can find that easily. platform.openai.com/overview. If you, I might be able to get it in there quickly too. You can do it that way. The other thing that you can think about doing is there's a couple of other parts of this. And one of the other parts, let me tell you what it is. It's called Dall-E. And Dall-E is a part of, I'm going to get the actual, Dall-E is the visual part, the vision part of this. And that is going to be easier to get into. Almost everybody I know, if you actually register through Dall-E, can get in. So I'm going to put that in the chat. That'll be my gift to you right there, is that I figured out how to get around the wait list. But Dall-E is the visual part. Not as many people know about it or know what it is. And so fewer people have actually registered for that. So you can come into Dall-E, and Dall-E will let you create different images. So that being said, if somebody wants to, in the chat box, start thinking about an image that you would love to create and come up with a, just type in a real quick prompt. I'll throw it in here and we'll test it a little bit, because I'd love you guys to start seeing how the prompts work. So to give you an example though, I'll start with ChatGPT. Sorry, my thing is the Zoom thing like hangs out over the top of the tabs. So I have to shut it down a little bit. So here is this. Let's just say create let's talk about what we want to create here. So let's create a blog post about how, I'm just going to show you what the limitations of this, about how to use AI for creative professionals. Let's see what it gives us. So what'll happen is you can do this and it'll start just typing away. And it'll start creating a blog post for us. And I could have said, create a social media post, or I could have said, create whatever. And it's going to have different ways of talking. So like right now, it's very professional sounding. So I could also go back, and I'll show you here in a minute as it writes, as it writes, we'll just talk through it. It tends to do what I'm showing you right now. It gives you like lists and things like that. It's very good at giving lists and ideas around that. Of course, you have to realize what it's giving me right now is what it thinks is important. So what I think we bring to the table with this is that we can go back, like if we ask it something like this and think, do I agree with this? And also you can go back and put in case studies, stories. One of the things I think this does not do very well is storytelling. It's terrible. Tell a story about how to use AI. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. And this is going to be like me asking it to tell a story. And it's lacking. I feel like it doesn't have that heart and soul. See, it'll just start with once upon a time. And as any good writer in English Lit knows, starting with once upon a time is the worst. So again, I tell you, it's like maybe a 10th grade writer or maybe even younger. So it's just very, very basic and straightforward, and it doesn't have a lot of nuance. So if you're a writer, I would not be afraid of this. What it does very well, though, I will tell you, is you can take a piece of writing and put it in and say, hey, add AP style to this. So you can actually put a piece of writing into it, and it will like look at all the writing and and make sure it's an AP style. I've put stuff in and said, please, or say please. I actually, you could just tell it what to do. I'll say something like, make sure that this writing is all active voice. So I'll tell it to make it active voice, and it will do that as well. So you can see that, and I know this wrote it very fast, and you can only read so fast, and it's very small. So some of you may not be able to read it at all, but it does do this for you, but it doesn't necessarily have the heart and soul in it. So it can help you to do things more quickly. So I like the lists. Like I like to ask it, give me a list of things that you would ask somebody in an interview for XYZ topic. And then it'll give me a list of those things and I can do that. Another thing that it does really well is headlines, because guess what? It's kind of like SEO, right? It's like going out and seeing what people have said or so on and that. It's not true SEO, but it does help with headlines. And then you can take those headlines and go research them and see which ones work best and change them up a little bit to be great. So I think you're starting to maybe get the idea of what I'm talking about, is that this thing can be very good for breaking things down into their component parts and so forth. It's terrible at research because honestly, the research that it has is old. So anything that's new and innovative, and that, I mean, we're talking about AI, there's plenty of stuff in there about AI, and they knew we would ask a lot about AI because, well, obviously we're going to be doing that, but nothing is in there before 2021, or everything is before 2021. I think that's what it said, right? 2021 at the top. So everything is extremely limited in what you can do. So I just feel like, you're going to have a situation where if you don't learn how to use this, like this can definitely make your writing, your everything that you do for social media, everything you do you can ask it to write an email with a tone, like write an email inviting and being very specific, social media managers, let's do that just for fun, managers to come to an event, to learn about how to use AI tools for social media. Let's see what it does. So you can get it to give you something to start with. So if you're more of an editor type, this can really help you because it'll give you something to begin to use. So you see, I hope this email finds you well. As a social media manager, you understand the importance of staying ahead of the latest trends and technologies in the industry. With the increasing use of AI and social media, it's now more important than ever to understand how to leverage these tools to improve your work and stay ahead of the game. I'm writing to invite you to attend. So this is very formal, right? So I could also go back and say, write an informal version of this, and it'll be a little more slangy and a little bit looser and shorter. I can also tell it to write something to a limit. Like I could tell it, write only 160 characters or 100 words. I could take something I've already written and put it in and say, reduce this to 150 words. I don't know if you've ever been writing something and you're trying to get to a word count, specifically like 1,500 words or something, and you are like taking things out and putting things in. So this can help you do these kinds of things. So I believe that the biggest advantage for us as writers and as communicators is time, speed, getting things done faster. But if you want it to be really interesting, or have like those stories in it, like we were telling stories earlier. I was telling you about the cake box, and I was telling you about earlier we were talking about college, and those storytelling moments are not in this AI tool. It doesn't exist. And so you are the storyteller, and that's why human people are still really important to this process. I think it'll get better at those. I know I've heard of people talking about, adding their own corpus of communication in. So like I've heard of people taking their, like book writers and people like that, taking all of their stuff they've ever written and putting it into the tool, not this tool, but in other tools. And then that thing becomes a writer that writes in their voice. So that's possible. It's definitely coming, but I don't think a whole lot of people will do that. And I do also think that even though this is available, there'll be people that turn to you to ask you how to use it. So I guess those are my main points. I have a lot of other tools I can show you, but I just wanted to give you the layout of that and take a pause and maybe hear what your reaction is to how I'm showing you how to use this. And then we can talk about other tools, and I will show you a couple of other demonstrations, but let's have a little conversation around this one first.
I would love to hear from someone who that was a new experience for, they had never seen. It just sort of starts spilling out. Because that was a huge eye opener for me the first time I got in and was like, wait, what?
Yeah, Susan, I'll go, and I'll just say, I put in the chat, like, I'm shooketh. Like I was just totally surprised at what I was seeing. I had actually never seen that kind of technology before. So of course, like y'all were saying towards the end, the time saver, like time is such a big resource for us that we just can't get enough of. So this, I feel like, is so helpful for that, to help with that. But of course, now I understand the fear, the concern of like, oh, it's going to replace this, but it's really not. It's just a tool. So I'm understanding all those sides to it. But honestly, I was just super just in shock at it all.
Right away, and I mentioned this in the comments, you have to think about batch processing of work that you do. And we're in UXSA, we're helping people transition to UX and, you know, cover letters and contacting companies. And you just don't want to do that over and over again. Even if you try to templatize it yourself, that takes time. And this is something that is a real game changer, I see. And there's now, I mean, I'm thinking of all the different applications that it could apply to in that way. And I had asked a question. I wonder, has this gotten into the sports industry and sports reporting or blogging that you know of, Cami?
Yeah, so many years ago, and I don't have like I'd have to do a Google search to get you the exact point. There was a discussion around this because this has existed for a long time, not ChatGPT, but like this technology.
Yeah.
And so they talked a lot about that, exactly what you just said, Bob, about you know, the latest sports scores, like at the local level. Like, why can't we replace all the reporters with this technology? And I know, and maybe somebody in this chat knows about it. I don't know, Fran, if you remember this, but they were talking about that, and they had a actual tool that was created for that purpose. So I think that it exists. I don't know, and I'm sure it's being used even now, but still, you know, for your bigger sporting events and whatnot, I'm assuming they're going to still want people there to be like, wow, look at that. Like, oh, I can't believe that they went. I mean, that's the storytelling, right?
Emotive
Yeah.
storytelling, especially. That's, you know, think about when things aren't interesting in the game and they're filling by telling stories, right? So
Right.
you had talked about if you're able to come off of mute, Serena has put in the chat, it stops the blank page.
Yes.
Despite having been an academic for many years, I just still get the fear. The fear is real. And writing, just that thing, I'm great at editing and correcting stuff, but being able to not have a blank page might be a bit of a game changer for actually getting started, because then I've got something to push back against.
Yes.
I'm big on that too. I'm into that, Serena, too. I feel like I'm a much better editor than like a original writer. Yeah, there's always that moment. It's like, what am I going to say? Like, how do I start?
It kind of has that collaboration feel. Excuse me. Yeah, it just kind of has that collaboration feel, like, oh, here's what someone put up. No, that's not what you should say. You should say this, you know. So it immediately you feel like there's, you know, an input. There's a give and take. Talking with machines.
Also, the one thing I will tell you is that there's already a Princeton guy who has been looking at creating a detector for that. And I just put the link to that article in the chat that gives you a little bit of understanding about that particular piece of software, which basically you can take the GPT stuff and put it in his detector. So if you're a teacher, and it will tell you whether it was written by chat, or the likelihood that it was written by ChatGPT. So there is going to be people that will know if you just use ChatGPT. So there's these people that are like, let's do entire books. And they already are, by the way, because they can, like, you can write a book tomorrow on ChatGPT and publish it. And somebody sent one to Mark Schaefer recently and asked him to give it a review. And he said, not yet. No. So I do feel like there's going to be a lot of like writing that is like manuals. I think it might be very good at writing manuals and things that are more technical, right? So if you're a technical writer, this could be very helpful to you to pull together a bunch of stuff that people are telling you and get it all and summarize it. It's good at summarizing. It's so good at summarizing. Anyway, so yeah, now we're starting to pasting. Oh, and the code. And who is it that said, who asked about coding? Anyway, I know Raisa was talking about it a little bit, but if you go to the OpenAI, and I will share my screen again, there is a way to code. I am not a coder, so obviously that's not my first thought, right? because that's just not who I am, but I know a lot of you are. So I'm just going to show you this. So you can code in here. And I just found on YouTube, I shared it with I shared it with one of my clients, and he sent it to his coder. So in a minute here, I will try to find the link to that YouTube video, but they went step by step by step about how to create an entire website using this ChatGPT and put it on your website so you can add it there, because it does have an API. It's an open, source code. So interesting, right? So this is
I'd like to see that.
This is the code completion stuff right here. Yeah.
I had a
So
similar experience with seeing something be typed out for you. I come from medical transcription, and early in my time as a transcriptionist in the 90s, there was a big rumble about a computer program called Dragon.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah, a doctor could talk and
Yeah.
a computer would type it.
Yes.
But a transcriptionist is not just a typist. A transcriptionist is a medical language specialist. And we catch doctor error and we make it understandable, and we get rid of the coughing and the hacking and the joke telling and the conversation that they're having with their neighbor. And oh my God, I forgot my place. And so I'm not afraid of the Chat GPT because of the things that you've mentioned. It was kind of cool to watch it spill down the page, but this kind of revolution has happened before. The difference between now and the 90s is that in the 90s, everyone was scared, right? But it took 10 years before I got work where I was listening to the doctor, watching what the computer had already typed, and then editing it, and then listening to the doctor to proof it. I couldn't make any money doing that. It was miserable work. But I see that happening here, but I see it happening faster than it did with Dragon.
Yeah.
And only in certain industries. And you still have to have that expertise where, oh, that doctor made a mistake. Because I saw someone say that ChatGPT is not for accuracy.
It isn't.
Right. And in medicine and in other subjective occupations like writing, we have these big, vast areas of gray that involve emotion and relationships and all that. I'm not really worried about it, but I think it'll be a great expedite.
Cami, are you going to get to the AI and ML are only as good as their training data? Is that a point still to come?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I've already said it, because they only have so much that's in it, right? So yes. So why don't you I can say that, but you just did. So why don't you go deeper into that?
In the early 20 teens, I went to work for a startup in Austin called Anaconda, and they specialize in Python tools for data scientists. And I learned a lot about AI and ML. And one of the biggest takeaways was they are given training data to start with. And it's kind of like if you have children or you understand child development, children build on language that they're immersed in, right? So whatever training data you give an ML tool, that's how it makes a construct of the world. And so anything that's not in the training data doesn't show up. One of the early faux pas of AI for images was Google had done facial recognition and image recognition. And there was a report from some people in Twitter saying, I'm not a gorilla and neither are my friends. And they were African-American Black people, and they were being tagged as gorillas because there were no Black faces in the training data. So it's just, it can be
and they are working on that as far as that goes, as far as also some gatekeeping too. So like some of the tools have some gatekeeping on the actual tool that doesn't allow certain words, phrases, things that, because people obviously are people. And as soon as you give them a tool like this is powerful, they'll use it for nefarious purposes. It's just going to happen. Or, you're going to accidentally get those kinds of nefarious things out of the AI, like, things that are just, you don't want to have. And so I agree completely. And also Raisa makes a really good point about plagiarism. So whatever you put into the tool, it is actually taking that. So I don't put anything in the tool that I haven't already really pretty much put on the internet already, or will put on the internet. So because by the time you put it on the internet, it gets scraped into these tools anyway, right? So that's really important. And so one of the questions I think was, how do you do that? You can take something like a blog post, for example, copy all of the copy from the blog post. I did this yesterday and said, write a quick email about this blog post. And I said a persuasive email to get people to read it. So I was very specific about what I asked it to do, right? Like to get somebody to read it. And then, I said, write a short, because otherwise it'll write this really long email. You saw what it did before when I asked it to write an email. It wrote this really long, ridiculous email. So it's like, you have to tell it exactly what to do. But if you do put some copy in there and tell it like, hey, take this copy and summarize it, or take this copy and edit it, or take this copy and create other things out of it, it can do that very fast. And like create 5, Twitter posts about this, different Twitter posts about this blog post that, will get people to click on it to go watch it. And then it'll actually put the calls to action in, and it'll give you different ones. You just have to tell it what to do.
Yeah, one of the things I meant, Cami, thanks for calling me out, is I didn't even think about it plagiarizing your stuff, but one of the examples that I've experienced is like somebody had asked it to write a blog post and in that to define content marketing, right? And so if you were trying to pass that off as your blog post, what it actually did was stole the definition word for word off the Content Marketing Institute website. So yeah, if you're trying to publish that, that's like directly plagiarizing if you're not asking for attribution. Now you can ask ChatGPT for its sources, but you'd have to be very careful about doing that. So yeah, you don't want it to do original content for you for those reasons. Like you wouldn't want to use it just straight out of the system.
No, I agree. And so there's just a lot. The problem, of course, is going to be, as you well know, is that now that it's in the hands of anybody who wants it, people will be using it in very interesting ways. And so for us, we have an opportunity to be the guide for this. Do you understand that we can be the guides? So there you go. Yes, it's Fran, I agree. It's actually perpetuating its own form of plagiarism. And Paula, yeah, I hope the teachers who encourage their students to use it will highlight ethics and information about bias and awareness. Yeah. Yes, I saw that too, Susan. I think I saw it from you. So Susan, if you could share that link of that TikTok video. There was a really cool TikTok video of a teacher who said, this is how I'm going to use it with my kids. And she was talking about a really innovative way of using something like this that makes the kids actually do the thinking work. Because that's the fear, right? Is that the kids will just use it not to think. That's the concern, that they won't learn how to deconstruct their writing, that they won't learn the basics and the building blocks of writing and of communication, right? Of persuasive communication. Let me see what you're saying here. Folks who are talking ethics are talking about developing an algorithmic watermark. Yeah. Yeah, they're nefarious people will still do what they do. But also, we can keep it from, we can build in to the design of these tools ethical behavior. So that's the thing, is that whatever you put in, it comes out. So if you have a bias, if the person who coded it has the bias will come out, right? And that is like well beyond the topic of today, because I am not a coder of any kind, but I can think about the ethics, right? So, okay, so let me show you a couple more little things, sort of fun things. And I'm going to show you these because I want you to understand that there's tools that are already starting to bake this in. How many of you use the tool Canva? If you could tell me, just let me know yes or no. Do you actually have it? Yes, for Canva. Okay, Cool. Lots of Canva. Okay, so there you go. So I, use Canva a lot, and it kind of, we use it for social media, work for our clients. We use it for a lot of reasons, but Canva has now baked into it some stuff. So let me just put a doc in here. So I don't know if you know that Canva now has documents. You can create documents in Canva. This is sort of a new thing. But inside of the documents form, and let's get it in there. What happens is it opens up like this when you say, start a doc. There's going to be a little plus sign beside it. Do you see where it says add magic? I don't know if you can see that. Let me make it bigger so you can. Add magic. So I can say, write a, let's see here, magic write. Okay, I'm gonna choose magic write. And I'm gonna say, okay, here's one that they give you. They give you an example, but I'm gonna say write a, write some headlines about how to use AI for your business. You see, I'm using all these AI things today because that's what we're talking about. What it's going to do is it's going to go out and it's going to create some for us. So there you go. There's a couple of them that they've got. Now you can go through them and decide which ones you like. You can create new ones, whatever. So that's one way that you can use that right now. Another way, the AI in Canva. The other way you can use the AI in Canva is through the design side, which is in all of the other documents. So say, let's create a YouTube thumbnail. That's fine. And I will say, at the bottom of this, there is this group of dots. I know this is hard to see, but there's like this little group of dots on the left-hand side that says apps. You click on the apps. By the way, it has a lot of cool new apps. If you've never clicked on those dots, you'll see all kinds of amazing things that Canva can do for you that you may not know that it can. But adding illustrations to your design, like this is an illustration thing, and characters and stuff like that. So you can add a lot of really interesting things, but let's just go text to image. So this is again, a text image. I say, create a scene. This is where you have to be very specific of a diverse group. By the way, I say that sometimes, by the way, if you want diversity, a diverse group of business leaders who are staring at the sky, but tied to their laptops with, I don't know, I'm gonna say that. We'll see what happens. It may not be good. We'll see. So you may have to do this a couple of times to figure out what you want, but I have an idea in mind, but I'll generate the image. And while it is sparkling and generating, we can talk a little bit. So I found that these have been fairly good, generally speaking. Those are a bunch of men, so that happens. So you're going to see. I said diverse and it did give me some diversity. That was good. I didn't really tie them there. This looks just more like the regular one. This is interesting. Everybody's just kind of standing around. So yeah, that didn't quite work, right? Or maybe you could see this. There's some things you can put in there, but it really matters what you put in the actual prompt. So I'll say, staring at the sky. Let me see.
That top left one is doing my head. Where are they standing?
I do not I think underneath like an overhang. And so that's the other thing that these things will do. It will create images that are like totally like unrealistic sometimes, like people with 5 fingers. I've seen that in Midjourney. Midjourney is another tool I'll show you in a minute, but Midjourney will like do like 5 fingers or 6 fingers, excuse me. Like you'll have somebody with a finger growing, another thumb growing out or something. It's a little weird. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes. So this is interesting what it did here. It did some sort of cloudy thing with like, it looks like little airplanes, right? I don't know. It doesn't know what to do. I gave it too much. I didn't give it enough information or do it right. I'm just showing you how it can be very difficult to get this. Of visit in casual clothing. I'm just going to see what happens here. Who are staring at the sky and where they see 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, like that. I'm just trying to see what will happen. I'm just seeing what I want to do. You have to tell it exactly what you want it to do. And it takes it kind of literally. And then also throws some of its own thoughts and creativity in there, which sometimes is good and sometimes isn't. I mean, to me, this just is like another thing I could get off of deposit photos, you know? The other day, though, I did ask it to make 2 Elvis impersonators staring at each other so I could put the faces of a couple of people on them, and that worked really well. And then I didn't, end up with an actual Elvis picture that was out there and copyrighted. So anyway, you see what I'm trying to say. Sometimes this can work great, sometimes it can't. So I'll give you an example of one of the AI ones I did that did work well. I don't have time to refine these. Again, it takes a lot of refining. So sometimes just going and getting, like this guy right here was one of them. Yeah, I did this one yesterday and I thought it was pretty interesting around AI kind of taking over. That's what it gave me for AI taking over. Yeah. Let me shut that so you can see it. But this gave me, oops, that's not really working. Anyway, I'm making it smaller instead of bigger. But anyway, so that's that. I just think that you're going to see that the actual imaging stuff just takes a lot of effort, and it's I'm not great at it yet. So there's people that I know that are better at this than I am for sure, and they're winning like art competitions with it. Not with Canva per se, but maybe something like Midjourney, which I will show you right now. So this is Midjourney. I'm going to give you my screen again now that I've pulled it up. This is Midjourney. You have to have Discord to use it. It's a little more complicated to use. Again, Dall-E, the link I gave you earlier to get into this might be easier for you to start. But for example, I told you I was trying to make a meme, an Elvis meme, and this is kind of what it came up with for me. So I like the look of Midjourney a little better. It's a little more artistic. It's a little bit different. So I used this for a fun little meme that I was doing just to kind of razz somebody. It wasn't meant for anything except for fun. But I've also done some others that were meant for different kinds of illustrations for different projects. Like I was doing a marketing illustrations, marketing circus. And this is like people standing around looking at these signs dressed like business people. But you can see there's some missing things. If you get close, you're like, where's the arm? It's a little bit interesting at the moment. So I just find that, these things, hold on, let me pull it up again so you can see. I'm sorry, I closed it down, but here you go. For example, here it is. Like you'll see like there's some missing things. Like if you get too close, this guy looks like the same guy. He has no neck. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong. So you have to really work on the prompts. The prompts are everything and they take a lot of effort. And so to me, at some points right now, it's sometimes just easier to use stock photography or do your own photography. So I don't think this is taking over on images anytime soon, but it does make it easy for you to put something together very fast. I did something on AR, VR. This was pretty good, I thought, for that. Right? That's decent. So I don't know what you guys think about this, but this is like the Dall-E type of stuff, Midjourney type of stuff that you might want to consider. How can you start to create with it? But you can see this guy has a nose that's sticking out to the side. It looks like a pig's nose. Anyway, it's just not perfect, guys. It's just not perfect.
I love Midjourney, and I've seen it used in combination of taking lyrics and lines from songs and creating. There's a whole channel about it out there if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's fantastic. And one of my best examples is War Pigs, the song from Black Sabbath, right? The generals gather in their masses. There are a couple lines in there that as I've been hearing this growing up, I have this mental image in my head, and I swear to gosh, they put a couple on there that were exactly what I was picturing. It's really amazing stuff.
Right. And they've spent time with the lyrics. They've spent time and you have to give it certain like clues, like there's style. It's a style. And they're if you go into the Discord server, they do have a instruction manual, if you will. So you have to play around with it, learn how to use it. It's a skill set that you would have to like create for yourself. And if you get good at this skill set, I think it's marketable. Honestly, I do. So that's just where I'm coming from. You may hate it if you're an artist, and I get that. But it is here to stay. And so it's another form of digital art, but it's not the only form of digital art, right? So I just feel like we can get really bent out of shape about these things, but the genie is out of the bottle. I don't think we can put it back.
It's just another tool in the, list of tools of brushes and palettes and et cetera,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't like, the artists didn't like any kind of digital art when it first came out. In fact, I know they didn't. I remember it was not well received.
Most of them. There's a few. There's always a few.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm pulling this up because I wanted to show you this too, because we did this, because I told you we did this for our book cover. I just want you to see what Frank did, because he did such a great job with this. These are the 3 different book covers that he came up with. Working with a group of 35 authors, like getting people to agree on something is pretty hard. So people were talking about they wanted superheroes, they wanted a circus, which I did not want, by the way, just for the record. And they wanted explosion of ideas, like just how, like all these ideas that you can get. And so I think he did a very good job getting something that was really workable. We had to get rid of like ears so that it didn't look like other superheroes. Like we had to be careful. We weren't like going to get it copyrighted, like by looking too much like one superhero or another. And so that was that. And this, I actually do love this circus thing that he came up with. It's really cool looking, but like really glad that nobody chose that. This one got overall chosen by, like, we put it out for a vote and 61% of people said they liked this one the best. So again, this is all made by Midjourney. And we will market it as such. It's going to be a nice little marketing piece for, the cover that was made by Midjourney. So we'll get hopefully some coverage out of that. But anyway, that's the idea. I really feel that there's just so many cool things that you can do with this that that you can bring it in. One other thing I will show you, I showed you that. I'm going to show you one other tool that I use a lot. It's called Searchy, and Searchy, you probably have never heard of it. If you have, let me know in the chat. I'd be surprised if you have, but Searchy is a video kind of platform where you can take a bunch of videos and create all kinds of landing pages and searchable. If you're doing any, if you're a coach or you have students, you can make a password protected site where you have all your stuff in there. And so I've been using it pretty heavily for my online trainings, and also for Social Media Breakfast. We actually created a website with it that is pretty cool. Actually, I'll put the Social Media Breakfast website in here so you guys can see it and sort of what it looks on the front end, so you get an idea of what I'm talking about.
What tool was that again?
It's called Searchy, and I'll put a link in here in a minute. Just give me a second to get it to you. Actually, in this, I'll put this back in the chat. I do have a link to all these tools, just so you know. In this document, I just put the link for the document with all of the tools I've been talking about, and all of the AI tools I've been experimenting with are in here as well. So let me really quickly pull up Searchy, and you can see how I'm using it. So on the back end, you will I have it so it's connected with YouTube. So anytime I have a live stream or anything like that, it automatically gets sucked up into here, into the media library. Here is one that I did for our Mastery Moment, which is a private group that I do last week. And what it does is it has always done this. It does the transcript, it does a transcript of what the video is. And the transcript is not great, as was mentioned earlier. There's always errors. But what I've done is there's a little magic arrow here, and it said see suggestions. And I clicked on that. I did that before we came in here, just so that it wouldn't take the time. We wouldn't be watching it because it takes a little time to do it. And it automatically went in and summarized that video. And now I can go back in and edit this, but I don't have to make summaries for every single video that I do. That's super helpful, right? Because it's summarizing what we talked about during the video. I can read it and make sure it's right. I haven't read it yet. So whatever it says right now, you may not be able to read it either because it's kind of small, but it gives me these ideas, right? And it tells you, it's a 51-minute video, and here's what we talked about. And then I can add thumbnails and all kinds of stuff, but I can generate all kinds of suggestions for the Searchy with the AI here. And here's the suggestions that it gave me. So when you come into here, it gives me all kinds of other things, including it makes chapters for me in the video, which is amazing, right? So I can just copy that now, and I can bring it back out and I can put it in here so that when people go back, so that just saves me so much time just right there, right?
Again, I see sports and music applications. You know, you don't have to watch the whole game. You don't have to listen to the whole concert or see, you know, you just get a recap of what happened, and then you go and look for the individual things that you want to comment on.
Well, what's even better is that these are going to become clickable once you do that, because Searchy does that. And so you click on that, it takes you to that point in the video. So it's super cool. Like I said, I did that right as we were coming in. That was what I was doing while I was like madly opening all these tabs. And by the time I was ready to show it to you, it was ready to go. And it was actually ready sooner than that. So really, really helpful stuff.
Hey, I just want to make one comment, or just say something that's just, this to me has a lot of implications for disabilities, people with disabilities, people who struggle with writing or struggle with adaptation. It opens that circle of inclusion in my mind that I hadn't thought of before.
I love that. In fact, that's a great way to end, Susan. Like this can really be inclusion. And I loved seeing you guys today. I do have to go too, because I have something to do today, but right after, but this has been amazing. Thank you guys so much for putting all of your ideas in. Make sure you guys save the chat, go down and click on the 3 dots and click save the chat.
And we will post the recording if you want to share it with other people.
Yes.
We post to YouTube channel and our firecatstudio.com website. Cami, thank you so much. This was amazing. I knew it would be, but wow. Would you guys like us to have more sessions like this one? Please let me know, Susan at firecatstudio.com, or other topics that you would like us to invite somebody to talk about, because we know a lot of smart people like Cami. Katie,
you're smart.
Katie, I cannot wait to see what you do with this kind of stuff, because Katie we have a segment with Katie talking about online tools that are free or freemium and making them all hooked together to automate workflows. So Katie, I feel like you need to just be an AI workflow specialist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already using it for that too. Like somebody asked earlier, can you? And I'm doing it kind of manually. I take it here and then I move it over here. Like I could take the stuff in Searchy and put it into ChatGPT and say, clean this up or edit it. You can like go back and forth. I've got one tool that I have in there that I think it's created, one of them in the list I gave you, that I take them and I say, it's got a rewriter on it. You can rewrite things over. So like rewrite this stuff. So that's an SEO, implication there. So you don't have duplicate content.
Next month, we're having Veronica Morales and her social being team talking about some of their work and ideas for how to do social media strategy and maybe some tool tips. So